And now it's time to set up charging so that the car is at 100% before we go tomorrow. So I'm going to go ahead and set it here. I'm going to move the charging arm up to trip at 100% there and say done. So that'll allow me to charge it to 100% when I plug it in a few minutes. There are two additional items I want to take with me on my trip, and that first one would be an air pump, and this is so that if something happens to a tire, I can open it up and pump some air into it if I need to. It's fully electric, so it's portable. I'll put it in the back of the car just in case I need it. The second thing will be my actual charging component. In the case that I'm somewhere where I need to plug in maybe a 110 volt outlet, maybe it's somewhere that has the connector but doesn't have the ability to plug into the Tesla, I'll go ahead and take this with me just in case. I'll put it in the car. Hopefully I won't need to use it, but I'm going to go ahead and throw it in there just to be safe. All charged up to 203 miles. That's 100%. It was actually about 204 when I pulled out. We'll go ahead and we'll route ourselves to Disney's Hollywood Studios, and here we go. You can see the map of superchargers along the way, as I pointed out in the preview video. And now we're getting ready. And because I'm fully charged, it should take me to this Fort Drum service station, which is exactly what it's doing. And it's estimating my trip will be 3 hours and 39 minutes, and I will stop there for, what, about 20 minutes. I might make it just a hair longer, but that should get me going. So we are all set and ready to go. So I set off on my first Tesla road trip. Now the thing I noticed was that the little meter that told me how much energy I was going to have when I reached my first destination kept going down. It started at about 15% and reached all the way to 5% along the way, and it told me that I needed to stay below 70 miles per hour to reach my destination. I was a little concerned, but it recovered itself along the way as it did some more math and figured out where I was going. Now the trip itself can be a little long. Sometimes you just listen to streaming music, sometimes you just kind of hang out a little bit, but you just keep driving. And I realize it was only 200 miles, but along the way you just kind of get bored, and maybe you even, well, pretend to fall asleep. But you keep driving, and you keep going, and it's a ways up, and you just keep going, and going, and going, and sometimes you just get bored. But you do have a beautiful sunrise when you're traveling along this way, so there is a bonus there along the way. So as I got closer, I saw that the destination I was reaching, the first supercharger, was coming up. And I'd have about 12% when I got there. And I could see that there were 6 stalls available, and all of them were not taken at this point. So I drove off, got off the highway, and started to look for the Tesla superchargers. They're not obvious where they are, but it does kind of guide you around through the parking lot to get close. You just need to kind of be on the lookout for them, because sometimes they're a little hidden away in a corner. So I did find them, pulled into them, and was able to start my charging. I took a screenshot of about what I had left at the time that I pulled in, and it was about 40 miles when I pulled in to get the fuel. So I actually got out, and it's actually kind of interesting. So the cable is the same as the one you get at home, except it's heavier because it's producing more energy, more heat. It needs a little bit more ability to expend that energy. So all you have to do is just go in and plug it in. There's nothing else you have to do to prepare, because Tesla recognizes your vehicle and your ID that's attached to the vehicle, and it will automatically bill you. It's actually pretty simple and straightforward. It makes it really easy. You just pull in and plug in, and you're on your way. So I had a chance to hop out of the car, go over and use the restroom a second, and now I'm walking back to the car, and it shows that it has about 5 minutes left to charge. Like I said, I'm going to let it charge just a little bit longer because I want to make sure that I have enough charge to drive around a little bit when I'm up there. But you know, it should be just fine. I'm almost ready to go and get back on the road. It's been just about 15 minutes, and I can see the car up there. It's ready. It's waiting for me now. I'll just kind of rearrange my stuff and be ready to go. So it's kind of cool. Looks like I'm the only one supercharging at the moment, and that's cool. I'm fine with that. But there are 6 stations here at this particular rest area. Interesting. These couple have 30 minutes time for charging, the first couple, and the rest are for longer charging. That's interesting. Didn't know that. So pretty straightforward, pretty easy to use. Really easy to just plug in and get started. And the car is telling me how much time I have left and what I need to do to keep charging, and you know, whatever. So if I open the door here, let's have a look. It's telling me that it's going to take Just another couple minutes. I'm at 5 more minutes, and I'm at 119 miles now, 120. Charging up at 93 kilowatts. So that's pretty fast charging. I know there are some that charge a little faster. Remember when I was doing the preview, it said it would take about $7.78 to charge. Right now we're at the $5 mark, so it shouldn't be too bad. I can hear the motors turned on the car to cool the batteries, because they're taking a lot of heat as they take the charge coming in. So that's it's an important thing to keep in mind. So I added about 125 miles, and I was there for a little over 20 minutes, and I'm on my way. So I'm headed over to the Hollywood Studios, enter the Walt Disney World Resort, and head over toward the studios so I can see Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. So I make the turn off, I head over toward the highway to get in, and I'm actually headed in toward the entrance. Now the thing is, I'm looking at my trip, and I realize that I'm going to need more fuel if I'm going to continue on driving around town throughout the next day or so. So I head over, and I go ahead and I go into the parking lot to go into the studios.
Hello, hello. Good, how are you doing today? Excellent. Thank you.
And those are the electric charging stations they have here at Hollywood Studios. As you can see, 3 of them are in use currently. The 4th one is not. They use the charge point network, so you can just charge right up using a charge point. And they charge about, I think I said it was about 38 cents a kilowatt hour. But they're right here at the front of the street. So I made it into Galaxy's Edge, and that's the Millennium Falcon behind me. Did I like it? I think you'll have to watch my video. I'll link to it below to find out more about my thoughts. So one of the cool things about the Tesla itself is that it has location-based services built in the car. So while I was walking out to the parking lot, I was actually able to find my car by just clicking on location, and it showed me as the blue dot and the car as the red arrow. So I was able to just walk toward the car until I found it. The app also allows you to flash the lights and toot the horn if you want to, so you can find it more easily. But I found this to be pretty simple. I have a tendency to forget where I park. This time I didn't even look at where I parked. I was kind of taking my chances a little bit just to be able to find the car. And it worked out pretty well. It was actually kind of cool to play with it this way. This is a kind of a nice feature that they have in it, especially when you're in a large parking lot like this. It's easy to find your car. So once I got in my car, I realized that I needed to get that fuel that I talked about. So I went ahead and headed over toward the nearest Supercharger and got a little more energy put in my car while I was there. So this is down in Celebration at the southern edge of the Walt Disney World Resort. So I pulled in to the studio's parking lot, and I realized that I was already down to 50 miles. And so after I parked and I went around for the day, I realized I'm gonna have to charge. So I'm back at another Supercharger here in Celebration. Took me a minute to find it, but it really wasn't hard at all. So we're gonna go ahead and add a little charge to the car right now. Okay. So I'll just sit here and watch some Netflix while I'm waiting. Why not, right? Hey, you know, a lot of stuff on here I can watch. What can I sit here and watch for a little while? Let's see. Oh, a little Bob Ross painting. Maybe that'll be good. Relaxing for a couple minutes. So after about 20 minutes, I had enough of a charge and I was on my way. It was time to go check into the hotel. I had looked at the PlugShare app and had found out that there was a destination charger, a 240 volt outlet, that was provided by Nissan available at the hotel I was staying at. So that was kind of nice. Assuming it was available, I could go ahead and put a little charge in my car, a little energy overnight, to make sure that I would be ready to go in the morning. And it turned out that there was a space available among the two. The other one was actually, amusingly, taken by a Tesla too. Now it's time to head home. So I had been at about 100% charge. By the time I left, I was at about 90. I had to stop in Fort Drum along the way to charge back up to close to 100% so I could make the rest of the trip home. So that worked out just fine. As I drove along, I could see that I was going to be at about 36% when I got to Fort Drum, and by the time I got home, I'd be back to about 9%. Coming up to my supercharging stop on the way home. I've got currently 81 miles left, and I've got some number of miles to drive home. I'm not even sure at this point, but I'm going to go ahead and stop, supercharge, and then continue on the way home. So we'll do that here for a couple of minutes. correctly, the superchargers are on this side, kind of back in this part of the parking lot here. I'm close by them right here, so I should be able to just go down to the end, make a quick turn, and they'll be right there. Let's see.
In 500 feet, turn left.
Yep, I see them over there. Just see them over on the side. I don't know if you can see them through the video here, but they're right there.
Now turn left.
I don't think I can get there because you can't go down that way. They're on the end here, so I'm going to turn a little bit further up. See them right there, they're sticking up. And we'll just pull in here, that's fine, here we go. And we'll make a quick turn.
In 500 feet, your destination will be on the right.
There we go, just pull in this middle space right here. All right. There we go. Perfect. So as you can see, all 6 bays were filled on my way home, which meant that I had to spend more time charging because more energy was being distributed to all the cars that were there. There were also cars waiting, so this was a popular destination on my way. So would I say that the Tesla road trip was a great success? I'd say yes, but it has its caveats. It's a little bit harder to charge up, you have to stop more places, and you have to stop for longer periods of time. On the one hand, you can stop and smell the roses just a little bit more, and on the other hand, your trip just elongates a little more. So it's something to consider, but I would definitely do it again. And by the way, I found it kind of funny that I had put on a Big Bang Theory episode while I was waiting, and it turned out to be one where Sheldon was holding up the word Tesla over his head. That's kind of an apropos moment.